Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion. Before we get started, let me remind you that we are covered by the gov't no government license, which allows for the reuse and distribution of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for governments and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bitcot.org. That is BIPCOT.org. This episode is also protected by Brandenburg v. Ohio 1969. Which ruled that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech unless that speech is, quote, directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. So everything we say here on this podcast is hypothetical. This is episode 89. Just another boys' night.
Yep.
Having fun.
We're unsupervised. Oh, no.
Shelter in place, quarantine, lockdown.
I don't know what your issue is, Andrew. I've been unsupervised for 2 weeks now.
I'm older than both of you. I'm unsupervised like half my life.
I'm an adult. I don't know what to do.
What was that meme I saw today? It said something like, the golden life is to die young as late as possible.
Yep.
Oh, I can live with that. Oh, unsupervised it is.
We always used to say that the goal of life isn't to arrive at the grave in a nice, well-preserved body. It's to come sliding in, feet first, going, God damn, what a ride.
I intend to skid in, possibly on fire, screaming, naked and covered in blood.
Yep. While intoxicated.
Yeah, and drunker than hell. Cigar, just like, yeah, that was fucking awesome. Oh, hey, what are you guys doing
here? Government agents chasing me.
That would just be the icing on the cake.
My own fucking funeral, bitches. Woo!
Speaking of icing, how's that snow up there, boys?
Ain't got anything in my house.
We got a decent dusting. I guess Rochester got inundated. Like they had whiteout conditions for a while. We got I'm gonna say it's a quarter inch or so. It's not much. It's just a dusting, but it's still in La Crosse because La Crosse apparently doesn't understand how snow works inexplicably. I don't know how they don't, but they probably won't salt, they probably won't plow, and the roads are going to be horrifying because they were so warm that it's now going to be just a coating of glare ice over top of them in the morning. So it should be fun.
Still about 3 feet at my friend's house in Wisconsin, and I'm here in California. I'm in shorts and I have my fan on my desk. Oh, it's already that time of the year here.
Yet again, this is one of these reminders why I want to move to Arizona. Like, you know, if I was in Arizona right now, it'd be warm.
Yeah, it'd be like 80 degrees. You'd have your air conditioner on.
Hell yeah. And it's dry, which means that guns don't rust, nor do cars. It's phenomenal.
You'd have to shave. You'd have to shave to keep your face from sweating.
Nah.
I'm more open to the cold than Andrew is. I go outside if it's over 65 degrees, I'm dying.
Nope. Give me sunny and 100 or so, and I'm pretty damn comfortable. I'm adapted to desert life, man.
I will take the snow over the 15 or 20 days we'll have this year over 100 degrees. Like 100 degrees is just, there ought to be a law.
Good luck enforcing that. There's, which is funny because there is actually a town in Utah that I remember years ago. There was a bunch of hoopla over the fact that like the city council had passed an ordinance against snow. And everyone's like, what?
What?
I don't think this means what you think it means.
You really do have a god complex, don't you? That you think you can just will it to not snow. Well, you're in the mountains, asshat. What?
So, since you guys are from Wisconsin, let's just jump right into it, and we'll go to the first article from Wisconsin. Fond du Lac or Fond du Lac or whatever.
Fond du Lac.
Fond du Lac.
Yep.
Well, Fond du Lac is Fond du Tyrannical. So.
Yes, it is.
All right. The city of Fond du Lac has a new tool to enforce the state's, quote, safer at home order. It allows police to fine children and young adults for violations. First time offense for 12 to 13-year-olds are $90. Teenagers between 14 and 16 years old could pay $187. Anyone older than that would be looking at a fine up to $313.
$300 for being outside.
Yeah.
But
Police
it's for your safety.
Yeah, police say the new ordinance is meant to be another tool for dealing with violations. Quote, we have a handful of criminal referrals that we've had to make for... Okay. Quote, we have had a handful of criminal referrals that we've had to make for very blatant, erroneous violations of the safer at home order, but that's not the way to deal with this with everybody. That is from Chief William Lamb of the Fond du Lac Police, said to the City Council's meeting Wednesday. But as any parent knows by now, keeping your kids away from their friends is often easier said than done. Quote, they're going to go out and do what they want to do, Fond du Lac mother Angela Grover said. You can't quarantine a 7-year-old or 17-year-old.
Yeah, are you kidding me? I mean, not that there's a hell of a lot to do in Fondy, but...
Yeah, movie theaters
have been trying to keep their kids in the house forever. A 17-year-old kid's going to find a way out of the house.
Yeah.
Laws, parents, grandparents, doesn't matter. All of them be damned. They're going to leave the house.
I was sneaking out at 14. Just...
Yeah, me too.
I didn't need to sneak out. I could just leave. So...
After about the third time, my mom and dad just kind of gave up.
Yeah. Movie theaters are closed, so restaurants and other hangout spots. Quote, when you've got teenagers, I have a 17-year-old that doesn't like to stay home, and to keep her in the house, it's either fight or let her grow. Let her go, Grover said. And dating, that's going digital too. Quote, the dating thing, I don't know, webcam, online. That's about it, said Grover.
Oh, I don't want to talk about my 17-year-old daughter and her dating on a webcam. No.
There will be no e-thoughts under my roof. All right.
Yeah, we're not talking about that.
Breaking the state's safer at home order could cost big bucks, even if you're just a kid. Quote, most of this time when a citation is issued, it's because there's a blatant disrespect for the law and further action is needed, said Fond du Lac City Council President Brian Kolstad.
It's a blatant disrespect for the law to go outside.
Every time
in the land of the free.
Yeah.
Right. Every time I read these stories, I keep waiting to see somebody show up in a Judge Dredd costume. I am the law.
Wait, hold on. There's another good quote coming up. Okay. Quote, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Keep your kids in the house all day? If there was more for these kids to do. Okay. Quote, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Keep your kids in the house all day? If there was more for these kids to do and you take their rights away, they're going to rebel, Grover said.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, shit, right? Oh,
no.
Hold on. Lamb, this is the city council president. Lamb said the fines are meant to be a compromise between no punishment and filing charges.
Well, I mean, we only took your freedoms away a little bit, and we're only going to demand money out of kids who probably don't have any, especially because anything they could have done is shut down because of the quarantine.
Oh, wait, hold on. There's one more. Okay. Quote, this is also from him also, from Lamb also. He says, quote, these ordinance would give us another tool to deal with those violations where appropriate because we can't use criminal prosecutions for all of those.
You can't even use realistically, I do want to point out, first of all, that realistically, if one of these kids gets fined and their parents has enough money to fight it in court, there's no way it stands up. Because as it is, whatever's is pulling is unconstitutional, even under the state constitution.
Yeah. Hold on. Examples of prohibited activities include using playgrounds, using sports, play, or recreational equipment such as basketball courts, cruising and hanging out with friends, and group gatherings, including parties and cookouts.
Cruising? Are you kidding? I'm in a car.
It's in quote. It's in
quotations. It's in quotes. It's right there.
Cruising and quote, hanging out.
My 6-year-old daughter and I have been cruising every night this week because being cooped up in this fucking house is just unbearable.
I'm in a car. I am as isolated from others as I can kind of get. I'm, here in my car. I feel safest of all. Like, come on. And
Okay, so like using sports play or recreational equipment such as basketball courts. If you're on the basketball court alone, you're in violation of this.
oh yeah, and they'll totally ticket you.
If you're on the baseball field or if you're in the park and you're playing catch with somebody and they're, I don't know, 25 feet away, that is a violation of this order.
That's because they're not hand sanitizing in between throws.
Yeah. So I want to point out to anyone who's confused. So if you're looking at Wisconsin, right? Actually, I should use this hand, I guess. If you're looking at Wisconsin, so Wisconsin's shaped like this. If you're looking at Wisconsin, Fond du Lac is like over here.
Down further.
And, well, it's down
more by the crease of your thumb down there.
Yeah, okay. So it's on this part of the state. Okay. Milwaukee is over here. This part of the state right here, this is the shadowy place. Okay. You must never go there, Simba.
That's
Green Bay.
That's
Brown County is the one exception.
Yeah, Green Bay.
Elephant graveyard.
Yeah, yes. That's the you must never go there, Simba. That is the place. Like if that scene had played out in Wisconsin, it would be like, look over there. Yeah, that's everything you see there that the light there is touching. That's all yours. Oh, you betcha. Well,
basically, if you look at a map of the
shadowy place over there. Oh no, that's Milwaukee over that way there, Simba. You never go there.
You go there, you're going to get shot.
Yeah, no. Head up north. Just go up north. Go see your grams. Go up that way.
Yeah, if you actually look at a map of the state that has the highways on it, if you can find Highway 151, anything southeast of that, just don't. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we go back to these numbers real quick? 12 and 13-year-olds, $90 fine.
Yeah. What 12 and 13-year-old do you know that could ever put $90 together?
Between 14 and 16, it's a $187 fine.
So when I was 16, I probably could have put that kind of money together, but not during a quarantine where I, any possible job that I could legally work was shut down.
Yeah.
So they're extorting children, literally extorting children. Yes, for behaving like children.
Right.
And what are they going to do if they don't pay the fines? Are they jail them? And then they're going to be like, well, they need to be taught a lesson in civil obedience because they're just showing a flagrant disrespect for the law. Well, are you fucking kidding me?
Disobeying bullshit laws is how we founded this country in the first place.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's one of those things that is incredibly American. That is an incredibly American concept. Like most of the people who live in that part of the state are probably German. Well, most people who live in a huge chunk of the state are probably German, let's be honest.
German and Scandinavian is about 90% of the state.
Yeah,
German. You have sausage races in between innings.
Yes,
you do.
So
it's not just brewer games. Not just brewer games.
But our state food is the cheese curd and the bratwurst. We brew tons of beer. So we're very German, right? But if you talk to Germans from Germany, there's that great story that James May told on Grand Tour when he was talking about, if your license was suspended, and he was like, well, so what happened? And he was asking his German friend because James May is British, and he's like, well, so what happens if you drive without a license? And there was an American there too, and the German's like, but you cannot. This is not possible. Your license is suspended. And they're like, okay, yeah, and the American's like, yeah, but what if you did? And he's like, no, this is not possible. Your license is suspended. that's the land that they came from, and now you want them to do that here when they came here to get away from that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's, and this other quote down here, it's he says the fines are meant to be a compromise between no punishment and filing charges. Really?
I don't negotiate with terrorists.
So I have a question. If I'm out walking my kid decides to go out in Fond du Lac walking my dog, am I going to have to pay a fine for my kid and a funeral for my dog? Or
in Fond du Lac. I mean, yeah, but that's the thing though, is it's like, wait, so by letting kids like, and how many times has like the fucking national safety blah 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 whatever they are put out all of those stupid PSAs about getting your kids moving and outside and
right.
And now it's like, oh, but if they actually do that, they're going to be extorted by the police state. Make up your like I said, compromise. Are you kidding me? No, there is no compromise here. I don't negotiate with terrorists.
And I can guarantee you because there have been a few times where talking to local officials here in my little bitty town, they've talked about it because they've got families that are going down to the one park in town because they shut down the playground at the school.
Yep.
They've had a lot of reports of people going down there. I was like, reports from who? I want to know who's reporting who.
Yeah,
because those people need to be tarred and feathered.
Yeah, what fucking... They're Tories, man. Those are fucking Tories. They need to be run out of town on a rail.
Yeah.
That's... No, like you... What is wrong with these... And then there are all those people who bitched and complained, because I don't know if you saw that picture that my mom posted from Nelson Dewey State Park. Right?
No.
Okay, so Nelson Dewey State Park is on the hill right up above Cassville, which is where my mom lives. And like there's Stonefield Village right there, right next to it. That's kind of part of it. That's like a late 19th century replica town and stuff that you can go see. It's really cool. But
did that during Christmas time. It's amazing.
My mom lives like less than half a mile from Nelson Dewey, and there's this picture that she posted that it is the road into Nelson Dewey. Because basically they didn't close the parks, but because everybody was on quarantine, there was no one to man the gates. So they just left them open. And because the initial thinking was, well, I mean, if I let all these people, if people are going into these wide open state parks, I mean, there's social distancing. They're not around anybody else. It's a fucking park. It's this huge wild area that they're going into. And there's all these cars lined up of all these people who are finally getting out and going and exploring the beauty that really is Wisconsin, that makes it so hard for me to leave. It's and that's what they're doing finally. And then the response from Evers, the governor, is to close all of the state parks under penalty of jail.
Yeah,
yep.
Okay, quarantine. Stay away from everybody. Oh no, you have to stay in the city.
Yeah, stay as close to people as possible, but stay away from them.
Yeah.
What? Like, I'm going out in the middle of the woods. You want me to get away from people? What?
I'm just waiting for my government issued bubble. Like, that's what I want, a bubble. I want one of those inflatable bubble boy bubbles.
Freaking bubble boy. Walking around with little hands and...
If you're caught outside without your bubble, it's a one-way ticket.
It's crazy.
With you.
Like here, like we've been on lockdown longer than you guys have. Like we're like a month. I think tomorrow's a month for us, 4 weeks or 30 days or whatever it is. But like they have like police tape on the park, and they have police that drive by like every 20 minutes, and they'll yell over the bullhorn, kids go home, that sort of thing.
I mean, I can understand being concerned about like, hey, look, the whole point of this is to try and stop the spread of the disease. So if there are 30 children concentrated in a park, that's exactly the opposite of helping spread the disease, because children are petri dishes as it is. So if you concentrate a bunch of them together, I understand saying, no, this is a stupid idea. Don't do that. But that's not what this issue is. These are just like maybe one or two kids or kids driving around.
Right.
There was another one out of Pennsylvania, out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A 19-year-old girl who had been like sheltered in place for like 2.5 weeks or something like that, got bored and decided to go for a drive.
She was by herself.
She was by herself in her car. The police pulled her over and threw her in jail for the night into a room with 30 other girls.
Oh boy, that's safer. Like what?
We're arresting you for your own good, and we're going to put you in this room with these other people for your own good because you're not properly socially distancing.
Because you're not social
by driving
distancing.
yourself around.
You're not social distancing, so we're gonna by
perfect.
being alone in a capsule that is largely fairly airtight, and because you did that, we're going to throw you in the worst cesspit we can possibly find, where disease spreads like absolute wildfire.
Right.
What government?
That's U.S. government logic. Absolutely.
That's all government logic.
Yeah, that's government.
The whole government does that.
Okay, like
all of them.
Here's our next article. I'm skipping order. I'm sorry, but that you brought it up, people being in their cars. Temple Baptist Church in Greenville, Mississippi. Temple Baptist Church members issued $500 tickets for sitting in their cars with the windows up, listening to the radio while the pastor gave a service over a FM broadcast.
Right, and it was a short distance FM transmitter.
It's a short range FM transmitter. So they were in the parking lot, sitting in their cars with the windows up.
Yeah, none of them are interacting with anybody. They are separated in their own little bubbles. All of them.
Yes.
None of them are interacting, and they got in trouble because all of their cars were parked next to each other. Yes. I mean, this is the equivalent of arresting everybody in an apartment building because, but I mean, you're so close to that other guy.
Just
next door.
Like,
yeah, pretty much.
I live in an apartment, and I will say that the windows on my vehicle probably seal better than the walls in my apartment.
Oh, probably. Absolutely.
Just for thoughts, But,
well, I mean, yeah, because you think about the design of a car, right? It's got to be able to keep wind out that's doing, that's essentially like 75-mile-an-hour winds. It's got to be able to keep all that out. So it's going to seal pretty well. Like, it's engineered to do that.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get on this article. It says, and I love that they taunted the government beforehand. The pastor did. So the phone rang at the mayor's office earlier this week, and the voice on the line says, quote, "We're having church on Wednesday, no matter what." The caller, according to Greenville Mayor Eric Simmons, claimed to be the pastor of the Temple Baptist Church on Reed Road in Greenville. The parking lot of the church was full Wednesday night with members of the church who had gathered in parked vehicles to listen to Pastor Arthur Scott's sermon broadcast over low-power FM frequency radio. The church, according to member Lee Gordon, had been using the radio broadcast for the last 3 weeks as part of the social distancing recommendations from federal, state, and local governments during the COVID-19 coronavirus epidemic. Those social distancing mandates were strengthened when Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves' shelter-in-place order on April 3rd, and further strengthened when Mayor Simmons' executive order on Tuesday. The executive order further halted drive-in church meetings and encouraged those churches to use other means to communicate their message. That's what the members of Temple Baptist Church thought they were doing on Wednesday, but their meeting in the parking lot of the church is a direct defiance of the executive order.
Which is illegal in the first place.
Executive order. This is not legislation.
Yes.
This is not, no, this is just a declaration from a single fucking person.
Yes.
No, let's not even call these executives people anymore. They're strictly tyrants.
Absolutely.
They're strictly tyrants.
Yeah. Okay.
Every last one of them.
Yeah. Quote, "We've done these orders for the safety of our citizens," Simmons said, pointing to reports from the Mississippi Department of Health and news from the governor's office outlining church meetings and other gathering places as epicenters for the increased number of cases seen in the state. Gatherings of 10 or more people have been banned in the city for more than 3 weeks now, even before the governor's shelter-in-place order. Quote, people have been calling the office all week, telling us there are churches still meeting, Simmons said. Quote, these are people from out of town who are concerned their older parents are still going to these meeting places.
They should disown those children. I mean, plain and simple. Yep. Take them out of the will, disown those children forever because your children are garbage. Also, that's your fault.
Yes. Gordon, who had been a member of the church for 23 years, said he thought the congregation was doing the right thing by coming to church, staying in their vehicles with the windows rolled up. Quote, the preachers in the church at the pulpit, we are streaming the service live as well, Gordon said. Quote, but a lot of our membership is elderly and doesn't have access to the technology needed to stream the service. Gordon, also a Washington County Board of Supervisors member, was in the parking lot Wednesday night. Both he and his wife were issued a $500 ticket.
And let me get, okay, so first of all, $500, that's $1,000 per couple of elderly couples. Yes. Okay, so they're extorting people who are already probably on a fixed income, cannot afford an extra $1,000. They're extorting them, and I'm going to go ahead and hazard a guess that they didn't put the tickets under their windshield wipers and then walk away. They probably made them roll their windows down to give them the ticket while standing there.
Yes. Yeah. Quote, the police were respectful and just doing their job, Gordon said.
Oh, God, yep. Your kids are probably some of the kids who called.
Well, this is the guy that's on the supervisor's board, right? So, quote, they asked us to leave first, and those who stayed got a ticket.
Yeah, they asked them to leave private property where they had no right to be in the first fucking place.
Yes.
Yep.
Gordon said he doesn't believe a statement was being made by the gathering or by the citations. Quote, I think somebody called the police. Are we just going to do, and we were just doing the same thing we were doing for the last 3 weeks. Gordon said the church plans to meet in the parking lot again Easter Sunday. So I don't know if they met or not. I didn't follow up, but
if I'm a member of that congregation, I'm suggesting that a large number of vehicles block that driveway and we stand outside in full battle rattle with ARs at low ready.
Quote, okay. Gordon pointed out the gathering not dissimilar to one at the church was happening close by. Quote, there's 25 cars 200 yards away, all in the same place at the Sonic Drive-In. What we're doing endangers nobody.
Yeah, and it's a fucking drive. You're taking food that someone else has prepared into. No one is touching your radio in this scenario but you.
Right.
And yet they are willing to endanger the safety of these elderly people as well as their financial well-being to enforce an arbitrary declaration by a single man for your own safety.
Well,
yeah.
I completely lost my train of thought, but I had something to expound on that.
Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves later responded to images from the church parking lot on social media. Quote, if you send police after worshipers trying to social distance, you're going to have Mississippians revolt. I've asked all pastors not to hold their services, but we ordered churches safe from these outrageous actions. Don't trample the Constitution. Please use sense, everybody.
So even
the governor said, chill the fuck out, mayor.
Yeah. Even the guy who issued the executive order was like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
No. The mayor had issued one.
Order. Oh, the mayor issued his own.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. The governor's was bad. The mayor's made it worse.
Yeah. So, but I mean, even like the top tyrant in the state goes, what is wrong with you? That no. What these people were doing was fine. When even one tyrant has to point out that a lower ranked tyrant is more tyrannical and call out these and that's the thing too. Remember, police in no way are your friends. Ever. They are not there to help you. The protect and serve is in quotes for a reason.
Most of them don't even have that anymore.
No, and they're not.
Yeah, they've abandoned it.
Look at it. They don't say police officer anymore. It says law enforcement.
Yeah, they're law enforcement. They are not here to help you. They are not here to protect you, and they are certainly not helpful. Wake up and realize that none of these people gives a shit about you or your well-being. They only care about their own power and keeping it. And if you think that makes them anything other than a gang, you're a moron.
So, I got a moron story, a moron article.
George Washington is judging these people very harshly.
All right, okay. Like, people are going to church. You're gonna fine people for going to church, right? I mean, that's what the freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. Like, I mean, come
freedom
on.
Of religion.
Freedom of religion. Yeah. Freedom to worship.
What is that? 3/4 of the First Amendment? Just.
Yeah, that's that. Mm-hmm. And if they handed out flyers, you are also interfering with freedom of the press.
Yep. So. All right. Okay, I got one. Interstate roulette. Ex-Claiborne County deputy who fired a gun into traffic pleads guilty. This is out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and this guy. When I think of like a Kentuckian or a Tennessee good old boy, this is exactly what I picture.
The funny thing, I love that you brought up Kentucky, because the funny thing is I just got into an argument with somebody about, because I've been on this thing about how
that is Kentucky as fuck, right?
You got a pretty mouth.
Banjo country there, boy.
Yeah. It looks like my buddy. He looks exactly like my buddy Fred.
I laughed because I've been on a thing lately about pointing out how much the South is not rebellious, and that it's this completely disingenuous thing that they pretend that they are, and I think it's hilarious. And I had some dude from Kentucky talk about how we're rebels and blah blah. I was like, really? So you were rebels in the 1860s then? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. What's funny is Kentucky is the one and only state in the Union that joined the Confederacy after the war ended. Because Kentucky did not secede and somehow has the highest concentration of Confederate battle flags outside of South Carolina I've ever seen. And it boggles my mind that all these people are like, oh, my great granddaddy fought in the Civil. Really? Because there was like one unit from Kentucky in the entire Southern Army, and they called them the Orphan Regiment because they were it. Because there was nobody else from Kentucky in the South in the Southern armies at all. And I just think it's hilarious that now we see Tennessee and Kentucky, and Tennessee did secede, but we see Tennessee and Kentucky so often demonstrate just how tyrannical they really are, and they're like the most vocal two states about, oh, we's rebels. Like, yeah, but
but are you really?
Are you?
Yeah. All right.
This is the perfect place to insert Princess Bride. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
It does not mean what I think it means. Yeah. Interstate roulette. Ex-Claiborne County deputy who fired a gun into traffic pleads guilty. Former Claiborne County Sheriff's deputy who fired a gun into interstate traffic for no reason in 2018 walked free hours after being booked into jail on Wednesday morning. Noah Arnwine, now 21, so he was like 18.
Well, who is letting an 18-year-old have a gun and run around with the power to murder people with impunity?
18-year-old sheriff's deputy. I mean, come on now. Okay, so Noah Arnwine, who's now 21, turned himself in to be booked into the London County Jail on a warrant for felony reckless endangerment. That's
like every day as a cop, but.
He promptly stood before a judge, pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor count of the same charge, paid his fine of $2, and walked away with 11 months and 29 days of supervised probation.
Okay, well, I'll say that a fine of $2 for reckless endangerment does sound rather southern.
He will also be required to perform community service and take a gun safety course.
He's a cop!
Right. He was a cop. He was a cop, and you find it necessary to make him take a gun. I mean, just marinate on that for a minute, if you would, listeners. Just for a moment. Like, as if the $2 fine didn't blow your head, they are requiring an ex-cop to take a gun safety course.
We should only trust the police with firearms.
Not some podunk city got a job because of his dad. He was a county sheriff's deputy.
Oh my god! I mean, see, like I said, we should only trust the police because they're the only ones with enough training. What? Apparently not according to that judge.
Yeah. The deal struck by the defense attorneys Wesley Stone and 9th Judicial District Attorney General Russell Johnson wrapped up a ludicrous case in less than 3 hours. By booking Arnwine into the jail, Johnson said prosecutors were able to treat him as an inmate and thus get around an order from the Tennessee Supreme Court suspending most in-person court proceedings amid the coronavirus pandemic.
So they actually had to manipulate their own rules because they thought that what this dude was so bad and so dangerous, what the cop did was so bad and so dangerous.
Yes.
They had to manipulate the rules just so that they could actually prosecute him.
To a $2 fine and 11 months and 29 days.
And a year of probation, which I can almost guarantee you it's Tennessee. He's going to violate it by, like, coughing at an inappropriate moment.
All right. Quote, as district attorneys, we see a lot of stupid things that people do, Johnson wrote in a statement to Knox News. Quote, we are all human and none of us are immune from mental lapses. But gun safety is
a mental lapse.
Hold on. But
it's a fucking gunfire.
Hold on. Wait, stop. All right. But gun safety is critical, especially as a law enforcement officer. There was no good reason, in my opinion, for Deputy Arnwine to be playing with a loaded revolver in the car and pulling the trigger.
Wait a second.
Whoa.
In the car?
Whoa. Yeah. Whoa. I had assumed this was road rage. Whoa.
No. He was in the passenger seat of the vehicle, playing with a loaded revolver, and pulled the trigger, shooting through the window into traffic in front of him.
I can't even.
There's some quotes from his partner that are just like, November 2nd, 2018, Arwen was riding back from an inmate's transport in the passenger seat of the county cruiser when the then 19-year-old pulled out his personal .38 caliber Ruger, emptied all but one chamber, pointed the gun at the windshield, and pulled the trigger, quote, as if he was playing Russian roulette, according to his partner. The bullet pierced the cruiser's windshield and whizzed into traffic during rush hour on Interstate 75 north near Philadelphia, Tennessee exit.
He was in uniform.
In the cruiser. Pulled out his personal .38.
So first of all, the fact that he has a personal .38 Ruger makes him just
quieter.
Yeah.
It makes him all the more Tennessee, if you ask me. I mean,
well, yeah, I don't need none of them fancy ARs.
Yeah. Quote, I slowed down to like 40 on the interstate, waiting for someone to just wreck and start flipping end over end over end because they got the back of their head blown off. Deputy Cody Lankford, who was driving at the time, said in a recording obtained by Knox News, quote, it really freaked me out, but I don't think anybody got hurt. It's just the principle and that he's that stupid. It kind of worries me.
Kind of worries you? Why did you not immediately beat him to death with his own empty revolver? Because I'm sorry, but if I am in a car and I am driving in any scenario and you decide to pull that, I am beating you to death.
Yes.
In the car.
All right.
With your own revolver.
Yeah. Lankford reported the shooting to Arwen's supervisor, former assistant deputy Mark Ellis. Quote, between the muzzle flash and being temporarily deafened, it took me a second to think of exactly what to do, Lankford told Ellis. Quote, you may need to call hospitals around Philadelphia, Tennessee, and make sure no one showed up with an unexplained bullet wound. Ellis said he did exactly that, but didn't find any injuries tied to the shooting.
I mean, you're so. I just want to point out that his own partner was so terrified that somebody had gotten hurt, that this was so reckless and so easily could have hurt someone, that even he was like, oh shit, I think somebody might have gotten shot.
Yeah. Ellis said he recommended that Claiborne County Sheriff Bobby Brooks fire Arwen and charge him with a felony. Arwen's stepmother works as a sheriff's secretary. His father, a Tennessee Highway Patrol officer, used to work for the sheriff. Ellis said the sheriff ignored his advice, kept the shooting quiet, and instead forced Ellis out over a struggle with a jail inmate. That struggle, which ended with Ellis using a stun gun to subdue an inmate as he fought with half a dozen officers, led to Ellis's indictment on charges of assault and official oppression.
So basically, this dude is a power-tripping psychopath.
Yes.
Who should have had his guns taken away from him immediately after he decided to just shoot randomly into traffic. And instead of doing anything about it, they kept it quiet because good old boys club.
Yeah. Arwen held onto the badge for 9 months after the shooting, only to be fired just as the Tennessee Board of Investigation launched a probe into the matter.
And that was the only, I guarantee you that was the only reason that they fired him, was because they went, oh shit, somebody outside of our organization knows this is happening. We need to distance ourselves from him and try and pretend that we haven't been covering it up. Like, why is that sheriff not indicted on corruption charges? Why is his mother not indicted on corruption charges? Why is none of that happening right now?
None of that's happening right now because they can't prove. Well, the sheriff himself should be. Because
that thin blue line.
Oh, absolutely.
That's why. I mean, yeah, that was the answer I was going for there, is because thin blue line. Because, but we're special. We're different. We don't want that oversight. There's a reason why cops hate internal affairs, and contrary to what you might have seen on TV procedural cop shows, it isn't because internal affairs goes after good cops. It's because internal affairs is the one piece of accountability that exists in all of the police world.
Yeah. Quote, "It must be a slow news day if you're asking about this," Brooks told Knox News when first asked about the shooting.
A cop fires a gun.
A cop fires a gun and they say it's a slow fucking news day.
Fired the gun through his windshield into traffic during rush hour.
There's now a bullet hole in the windshield of the police cruiser.
My question is,
somebody in traffic may have been shot at random as an innocent person, and that just must be a slow news day.
How in the hell did they get that windshield fixed without anybody asking questions?
Good old boys club.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. I mean, if you've ever lived in the South, you've experienced it. It's a good old boys club. These guys can get away with fucking anything. Oh yeah. Trust me, man. Georgia, North Carolina, it was the same fucking shit. Like the cops can get away with anything they want. They can do anything they want.
There's the windshield with the bullet hole through it.
That is not an insignificant hole.
I'm actually kind of surprised a 38 made it through it. I mean, it is a 38 special.
Well, that's why no one got shot after it exited the windshield. It had lost so much velocity, it probably just rolled down the hood. I just had that conversation with some FUD where he was like recommending a 38 revolver to somebody, and I'm like, actually, Jason, you know what I'm talking about, what thread, because you're the one who tagged me on it. And I'm just like, dude, 38 is such an awful round. It's not only obsolete, it's obsolete for multiple reasons.
Is that the same thread where the guy said get a 12 gauge, they have less kick than a 20?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. Now I recommend it. So we're talking about, a female new shooter has never owned a gun, never trained with a gun, nothing, but has now understood the need for self-defense, like home defense.
Right.
And I recommended a 12 gauge because you have never used a gun before. You don't know how to aim it. You don't know what you're doing with it. Chances are very, very slim that you're ever going to really train with it enough to be proficient enough to hit your target. At least with a shotgun, you have odds in your favor to hit the target. At least there's that. Like, trust me, the kick is going to startle the shit out of you. You're not going to like it, and you're probably not going to be able to do a follow-up shot. But at least your first shot will probably hit your target. And because you don't aim a shotgun, you point it.
And chances are you're going to scare the shit out of whoever you're trying to shoot at.
Well, yeah, because they just had
if you do miss, they're leaving.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would even say that using a 12 gauge shotgun, especially in a high stress situation or an adrenaline rush type of situation, she's not going to even notice that recoil or the report until after it's all over.
Yeah, probably not. And you know what? It's and especially when working that pump action, if it's a pump action, is really easy in a high stress environment because you're going thud, thud, aim, pull the trigger, thud, thud. There's no finesse needed here. It's just all big motor skills. Very, very easy. And that's why I'm like, no, you know what? It wouldn't be my choice. And it's not my first choice for home defense necessarily, although I have one for home defense. It's not my first choice, but it works in this scenario, right? Pragmatically. Mm-hmm. But then this dude, get a 38 snub-nose revolver. And I'm like, that is the single worst recommendation I can possibly imagine.
God, there's not only 220 comments on that thread now.
Oh, Jesus. Not only is it...
She would be better served with a 22.
Yeah.
Than a 38 special.
Yeah, because 38 special is an incredibly outdated, incredibly slow, incredibly underpowered round. It was anemic when it was new.
Somebody said Smith & Wesson governor.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I just...
What?
Which is why in my comment I had pointed out, I was like, look, if it's your first gun, I'm telling you right now, here are the brands that you do not get. Do not get Taurus, anything, period. Don't bother with a high point. Just don't. I mean, it's better than nothing, and it's cheap.
And they do a high point. If it fails, you can at least throw it.
You can hurt them, yeah.
Okay.
All
right, yeah. Okay, it says for home, 12 gauge shotgun, less recoil than 20. Glock 9mm for your purse.
Okay, the Glock 9, yes.
For your purse?
Never off the
body carry. So
if you're off,
so they suggested off body carry, and said a 12 gauge had less recoil than a 20.
There is so much wrong with everything in that tape.
And if you look down through that thread, like there's a lot of discussion between myself and other. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion between myself and other actual gun people where we have discussions about the merits of a shotgun in this situation. And when I point out, like, look, she doesn't know how to aim and stuff. So the ability to just kind of point and click is probably better than nothing. It's rather than bang, 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 bang. And then you accidentally kill your cat and don't hit your target, like I'd rather
dog.
Yeah, I'd rather you fire a shotgun blast, and yeah, it's probably not the best, but it's better than you accidentally missing your target entirely. At least you're going to hit them. Like within the distance of a room with a 12 gauge with double-aught buck, you will hit that target, and you will probably put them to the ground, most likely permanently.
Even with birdshot at that distance, the wad hasn't even fallen off yet.
It'll still hurt like hell. It's not going to kill them.
No. I mean, the wad hasn't even fallen off yet. You're basically hitting them with a slug at that point.
Yeah, more or less a frangible slug.
Mm-hmm.
That's still going to suck hard.
That's terminal at that distance.
So, I mean, you can do that. You can pull that off, right? And that was my idea is like, hey, look, I'm looking at this purely pragmatically. This is what you're going to need. But then you see people recommend revolvers. Revolvers are outdated piles of garbage and should never be a primary gun unless you are hunting bear.
Even then, get yourself a 10mm.
A Taurus judge.
Yeah. Somebody said something about a 357 being concealable, and I'm like, I really hope this is a fucking joke.
Well, they do make the 357 snubbies, but I would never ever want to shoot one again.
I was gonna say, have you ever fired one of those with the 2-inch barrels?
No.
Oh my god! It's like that goes off. You're like, well, the world did exist a second ago.
Somebody actually said SIG 226 40 caliber.
I mean,
Well, not 40, not in 40.
not in. I wouldn't do it in 40, but you know what? 40, honestly, 40 slow and wimpy, 9mm Luger, and 45 ACP terminal ballistics are almost identical. There is very, very tiny amounts of variation between the three. Now, granted, both 40 and 9 have an advantage over 45 in that they're supersonic, which means you actually get cavitation.
Right.
That you don't get in 45, because 45 being subsonic, you're just stabbing somebody with a little thing. Basically, that's what 45 is doing. 45 still exists because suppression is a thing, and that's helpful for suppression, right? Like if I was going to get a suppressed weapon that was always going to be suppressed and that was its design, 45 would actually, if it's pistol caliber, is my go-to caliber for that. I get that, right?
Honestly, I get where you're going with that, but in today's world, I would almost rather go with 147 grain 9mm, just because they're also subsonic and the ballistics between the two are going to be so.
But what if I want to kill their soul?
Well,
sorry,
then
John Moses Browning is not going to kill their soul with
no.
a
If you want to kill their soul, then you use a Calibri. Nothing is going to murder every last ounce of self-respect you had like being killed by a 2mm pistol.
Excuse me, Robert. Will you please hold still while I pull out my 8-inch barrel Smith & Wesson 500 concealed carry out of my pocket?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, and they make wrist breakers, right? They make the 2-inch barrels and the 2.5-inch barrels of very large hunting caliber. And that's the thing that people seem to miss. Like these buds that are like, oh, bigger is better, because they don't understand ballistics. So they don't seem to understand these are hunting calibers. The idea with 500 Smith & Wesson, the idea with 454 Casull, the idea with what's that Alaskan? Is it 458? 460 Alaskan. The idea with these calibers is that it allows you to carry something big enough to bring down a grizzly bear.
It's literally meant to go through the skull of a charging grizzly bear.
Right. But it's conveniently enough sized a weapon that it doesn't interfere with everything like a rifle would. It's the exact same concept that led to the development by the Israelis of the Desert Eagle in 50 Action Express.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same concept. I need something not in my way and small and compact for tank crews, but with enough oomph to actually do some serious damage. That was the idea. And these people seem to miss out that guns are built, they're tools. They are tools. And a lot of these people admit it, but they don't seem to understand that a chainsaw is not what I'm going to use to whittle with. So
I mean, if
to be fair, there are people out there who can whittle with a freaking chainsaw.
Given the opportunity, I'm just saying,
I mean, yeah, there are people who can, and you could use a 500 Smith & Wesson effectively for home defense, but that is not what that tool is meant for.
That's not what its intended purpose is.
Yeah, you don't perform surgery with a cleaver.
Yeah, you're at best you're overcoming the downsides. It's the same.
They used to.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same.
And a bone saw.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same concept as people who, who talk about, well, but I mean, I could get almost as fast as a semi-auto with my bolt gun. Okay, but what you're doing is you're saying, well, I can train around the deficiencies of this weapon instead of just going, I just need to pick the better weapon.
Right.
Like that's what you're doing. You're setting yourself at a disadvantage from the get-go and then hoping to work around that. And that is not a recipe for success.
All right.
I mean, I could maybe tune a Mazda Miata to drag race a top fuel dragster and almost keep up.
Mazda Miatas are the #1 picks for the Shelby Cobra body kits. They take a Mazda Miata and glue a Shelby Cobra body kit to it.
So it's a kit car like they did with the faux Raris on the Sierra.
Exactly what it is, but it's a Mazda Miata underneath, and then they put a Shelby Cobra body kit on it.
If that still handles like a Miata, that would still be a hell of a cool car.
It's a fucking go-kart. So,
yeah, that's still because I love MX-5s because I mean I personally still think the MX-5 is one of the funnest vehicles to drive on the face of planet Earth.
Pontiac Fiero.
Fieros are entertaining, but the Miatas are better. Like they're rear wheel drive, they're front engine, they're tiny, they're maneuverable. They're just a hell of a blast. I absolutely love Miatas. Don't get me wrong. But if I was going to line up a Miata if I was going, well, I need to take this Miata and then beat a top fuel dragster, that's stupid. Why wouldn't I just pick a vehicle that is already closer in performance to the dragster and then just amp it up a little bit so that I could actually beat it instead of having to go, well, I need to put in 500 times the effort. And that's what these people are doing by going, well, I recommend this outdated gun because you can train around
J-frame.
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
At least nobody said 5.7.
Dude, 5.7 is such a terrible home defense caliber or self-defense caliber for that matter. And a concealed carry. No, I don't want to just hit my target. I want to make sure that the guy behind him and the guy behind that also get hit by the over-penetration.
And my neighbor.
Yeah, and then No. I want to shoot through the robber, through the wall, hit my neighbor, kill them and their cat. No, that is terrible. That is a
and then watch the bullet
idea.
get lodged in the compressor of their refrigerator.
Exactly. Like, oh my God, no. It's you want something that is not going to over penetrate because you're going to wind up killing your own children because you shot through the robber and through their wall. No, this is bad.
5.7 is a lot of fun to shoot if you can afford it. But
most guns are fun to shoot if you can afford them.
I'll admit I've been eyeballing an FN 5.7 pistol for an alarming amount of time.
They're fun. I've had my hands on them, and I have shot a full auto P90. That is a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, because full auto. Are you kidding me? A full auto 22 long is a hell of a lot of fun.
Right.
I want the little desktop 22 Gatling.
Dude, have you seen Ian Gun Jesus did a video a while back. I was just talking to Lindsay about the other night of a guy who had built the Swiss dude was building way back. He was actually building Maxim replicas scaled way down and using 22 long.
That would be fun.
But when you pull them apart, they are literally a Maxim. All of the parts are just scaled down Maxim parts.
That's sweet.
The only variation is the firing pin isn't center fire, it's rim fire because it's 22 long. Other than that, everything about them is still a Maxim. And they have a functional water jacket, but they're this big. I want one in the worst stand. Like, that is amazing. Just ting, 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 ting. If there's ever a trench war between the squirrels in your backyard, whoever gets that thing wins.
Squirrel. All right.
If it's got a 5-inch barrel, you can use it for squirrel hunting. Just saying.
Ting, 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 ting. I feel like somebody might object.
Why?
What are they gonna say? You got a freaking Maxim.
What are you gonna do? Oh, what's that gonna do? Oh, you just wait. Holy shit! What the hell?
Mosquitoes!
After
the 74th shot, they finally went down.
Yeah,
right.
They did actually make. I don't remember the name of the company, but they did produce in the late 30s, early 40s a submachine gun in 22 long rifle with a 1900 or something RPM, and it had this top mounted cake pan magazine that was 150 rounds of 22, and it looked like a Thompson, but with a top-mounted mag. And because it was built like a Thompson, it weighs a ton, which means with 22, it moves 0. You could write your name with the thing, especially with a 1900 round per minute fire rate. So when you shoot it, it just goes, bird, bird.
It's a mini bird.
It's a mini bird.
It's a baby bird.
Yeah, and it's designed, it was intended for law enforcement, as a less than lethal. And I'm like, but you're hitting them with 30 freaking rounds.
All right.
You're literally going to cut them in half.
Yeah, what the hell?
Speaking of Bert, all right. Governor Northam signs red flag, 1 handgun a month, other gun legislation into law.
That begging worked out so
that
well.
Begaloo, though,
That Begaloo, yeah, it worked out fantastic.
All right. New gun laws are coming to Virginia. Governor Ralph Northam signed multiple pieces of gun legislation into law. This includes Senate Bill 70 and House Bill 2, which requires background checks for all firearm sales in Virginia, which means you can no longer buy your Sunny rifle for Christmas. Senate Bill 240 and House Bill 674, which established a extreme risk protection order, creating a legal mechanism for law enforcement to temporarily separate a person from their firearms when they represent a danger to themselves or others. This is more commonly referred to as a red flag law. Senate Bill 69 and House Bill 812, which reinstates Virginia's one handgun a month rule.
I don't even understand that.
Yeah,
like what? Even if you're anti-gun, what purpose can you possibly believe limiting people to a 30-day period between the purchase of a handgun is going to serve?
It's all about straw purchasing. That's what they're aimed at. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you look at it and you're like, well, then they have unenforceable universal background checks.
Yeah, it's unenforceable. Yeah, and there's yeah, it's retarded. House Bill 9 requires gun owners to report their lost or stolen firearms to law enforcement within 48 hours or face a civil penalty. And then House Bill 1083 increases penalty for recklessly leaving firearms in the presence of children. And then this fucking quote, quote, "We lose too many Virginians to gun violence, and in the past time we took bold, meaningless action to make our communities safer. I was proud to work with legislators and advocates on these measures, and I am proud to sign them into law. These common sense laws will save lives."
Oh, did I freeze?
Nope, you're still there.
Did you freeze?
Nope, you're still there.
No, it's what he read off was so retarded that you and I both slipped into a coma temporarily.
Yeah, apparently it was weird. It was like all of a sudden, apparently my brain just went, nope, can't do it.
Yep.
That was weird. All right.
It's I mean, they begged so hard, you guys, and they waved the flag so many times, and they took all those cool pictures with law enforcement.
I'm curious. Give me a second here.
While you're doing your research, Andrew, what I'm looking for now, obviously it's all gone through. I can't wait to see all of the sheriffs and the local Leos and whatnot who said, "Oh, we won't enforce this."
Oh, no. That was the assault weapons ban. That's what they wouldn't enforce. And that one did not pass. It's shelved for the year. It'll be back next year. They'll pass it. But
if they, they waved their flags so hard. They were like, "But America! How didn't it work?" I'm shocked.
They had their "Don't tread on me" flags. Well,
yeah,
they're fucking treading, you guys.
Isn't it a tragedy that they were only 1 or 2 Gadsden flags away from success? That's but no, I double checked and she goes, so the quote was, "We lose so many Virginians every year to gun deaths," right?
To gun violence.
Gun violence. Okay. So on average, 900 people, according to, and this is Everytown. I want to point this out. These are from Everytown, USA. I intentionally looked at a very pro-gun website, or anti-gun website, pro-gun control, for this figure. They say that 900 people, so clearly includes suicides, 900 people die from gun violence in Virginia annually. Okay. Do you know how many people die from traffic deaths in Virginia annually on average?
A lot.
867. So rounded up, 900. The exact same number.
It's just they don't care. They don't care about the realities, man.
I just like, and that's even factoring in suicides. That's factoring in negligent discharges. Like, are you serious? So the exact same number of people die on your highways, but you're not looking to ban cars. And you're like acting like this is some big triumphant thing that you've just done.
I guarantee, I'm not even going to look up the numbers, but I guarantee you more Virginians die from heart disease than die from firearms.
Yeah. I would wager that almost as many die from drug overdoses as die from firearms, especially once you eliminate suicides. from that number and negligent discharges. I can almost guarantee you that intentional homicides by gun in Virginia is lower than the number of drug deaths. So
heart disease in Virginia, 16,642. That was in 2010, though. That's the most recent number I can find.
But nonetheless, that's literally 20 times as many die by like.
Here you go. Okay.
Snacks as die.
All right. Article is from January 17th, 2019. And it says 65% of gun-related deaths in Virginia were suicide.
65%, right?
Almost 65%.
So let's say 65%, and when they say 900, they're rounding. So that leaves 35%. So that means 315 people actually die that are by guns in Virginia annually that are not by suicide. 315. Meanwhile, 3 times that number die on their highways every year.
They're not trying to ban cars.
They're not going to ban cars. They're not going to have this big, hey, look at us. Look at how great we are that we did this thing for cars. They're doing it for the guns that kill 300 people.
So top 10 causes of death in Virginia. 1, cancer. These numbers are from 2017 per the CDC. Cancer, 15,064. Heart
Boy,
disease,
I'm shocked that many people die from cancer in Virginia.
Right? Heart disease, 14,861. Accidents, 3,922. That's number 3. Strokes, 3,555. Chronic lower respiratory disease, 3,363. Alzheimer's, 2,549.
That was also caused by smoking.
Right. Yeah. Diabetes, 1967. Kidney disease, 1618. Septicemia, 1249. And flu or pneumonia, 1245. All these things.
It doesn't even make the top 10.
No.
Nope. Come on, Everytown. Where's your petition to ban sugar?
Ban sugar. Ban smoking. Apparently, ban. Well, of all places, Virginia and North Carolina, both of whom have taken lots of steps against guns, are not going to ban smoking. The homes of Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds, two of the most evil companies I can possibly imagine.
Well, if you just go with those two companies and the deaths that they caused, you've got number 1, number 2, number 4, number 5, and possibly number 8. All of them directly relatable to smoking.
So 4 out of the top 10 are a direct result of smoking.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And Virginia is the tobacco state.
Related, yeah.
Yeah, and Virginia is the tobacco state. But, oh no, we're going to celebrate that we've saved Virginia because we banned the thing that doesn't even probably make the top 20 of causes of death.
It might be in the top 15, according to the 2017 numbers. Firearm deaths. Now, again, this is all firearm deaths, not...
And remember, 65% of that is statistically suicides.
Right. So 1,041.
Yeah.
So probably top 15, maybe top 18.
Maybe. Yeah, but either way, like this is, and the people's response in Virginia, with as much as they wanted to celebrate it and they keep going, well, it was just a show of force. Okay, well now, if that was just a show of force and a threat, if you honestly mean that, well, okay, it did nothing. They passed the laws anyway. What are you going to do now?
My money says recall petitions.
You're going to protest more. You're going to vote harder. You're going to continue to run in the rat race, the wheel, the spinny little hamster wheel that they set up for you, that you are willingly running in. That's what you're doing. And you know what? It's not going to work. If you change your mind and you suddenly realize that doesn't work. We're all standing on the outside of that wheel for you, just waiting for you to join us. We're just standing here going, hey guys, once you guys figure out that this doesn't work, once you finally admit it to yourselves that this whole government thing doesn't work, we're just waiting for you to figure that one out. To finally admit it. Because I guarantee you that they're not going to do anything. You're not going to see the birth of the actual Begaloo is not going to kick off in Virginia. I would actually put money that it is not going to happen in the American South at all.
No.
They lick too many boots too hard.
No.
In the American South.
If I were to guess, if I were to put a wager on anything, I would sure as hell wouldn't even put it on our state.
I think it'll be in the PNW. Like Idaho's looking pretty promising. There's some major pushback right now in Oregon. There was just an article in the Sun, the UK Sun, about the numbers of the California state militia going up and people reaching out to the CSM. So I mean, I don't see California doing it, but like Idaho with what Ammon's doing up there and all that pushback.
Awesome, by the way.
I really gotta get a hold of him and see if I can get him on my podcast. That would be, or get him on here. That would be cool.
You know, I would say, Jason, I wouldn't completely write off California, but it would have to be anything north of Sacramento. I could see it kicking off up there.
Central Valley.
Central Valley?
Northern California, they're a little... They're conservative. They're very conservative up there. There's some libertarian parts on the coast, but as long as they got their weed, they're fine. But the Central Valley,
I would argue that
there's a lot of push there.
Humboldt County has basically been in a state of Begaloo for an extended period of time. In California, like that's
go. I used to live up there. I can't argue against that.
Yeah, they basically already are in a continuous state of Begaloo. Those dudes are fucking serious. Like when I traveled through there years ago, I fucking loved it. I loved everybody I met. I thought it was freaking great. I thought everything they were doing was fantastic. It was great.
I'm telling you, hippies are not anti-gun as people think.
Oh no.
Flower Child were anti-gun. Hippies, like, leave us the fuck alone, and then if you fuck with them, you're gonna get it.
Oh yeah, and I could see it happening. Maybe Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington, Idaho,
Montana.
The Redoubt area, Eastern Oregon, Idaho, Western Montana. Those are some pretty leave us the fuck alone-tarians up there.
Yeah, I could see it starting there. The question is going to really be at that point, does it spread from there? Because the problem is if that's where it starts, it's so isolated that it's really difficult for it to really spread effectively. I would like to see it happen somewhere in the Midwest, but in
my opinion, that would be dependent on how the government reacts.
Yeah.
If the government comes in heavy-handed, it's on. Like other people will react, right? I mean, you look at what happened to Duncan Lemp and the reaction from the community and people outside of the Boog Boy community.
Oh yeah, it turned a lot of people. Duncan's death, I mean, may he rest in peace, and it's a loss to the Boog Boy community and to his family and his girlfriend, but his death was not in vain, because what his death did is turn a lot of people who were on the fence about the idea of the Begaloo. It turned them to it, because suddenly they realized that all those things that we were saying government was willing to do, they clearly were willing to do.
They shot through the window into the house, killed him, and wounded his pregnant girlfriend.
And then lied about it and tried to pretend that they did something that, based on the floor plan of the building, is physically impossible.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. That's a discussion.
We are all Duncan Lemp, and it's just a matter of time.
I don't want to get red flagged before this is over. So.
and there was one other. There's I can't remember her name. The one who got killed. Who was asleep. Too, because it wasn't just him. There was another one where they did an assassination. She was asleep and was killed. Bridget.
Was that the one where the guy came downstairs and shot one of the cops, and then they hailed like 25 rounds or something like that through the house and killed her while she was asleep?
Yeah. That one. Bridget. I can't remember her last name, and I feel really bad that I can't.
I know who you're talking about.
But yeah, that one too. Like, these are names that we got to remember. These are names that we got to talk about and we got to hold on to. Like, if I say Crispus Attucks, you guys remember who Crispus Attucks is?
Bridget Shield.
Yes.
Bridget Shield, right? Duncan Lemp, Bridget Shield. These are the first of the martyrs, and it's the same thing as like Crispus Attucks. Everybody remembers. I mean, the man died 300 years ago, but everybody remembers his name because he was the first martyr of the American Revolution.
Yeah.
So and half Indian and half black.
All right.
So
all right. Lighter subject. All right. It's not often we do. I don't even want to call this a positive story because it's not that positive. It's permission, but it's so fucking hilarious and it's blowing people's minds, and that's always fun. But
I know which one this is.
Yeah, licensed gun shops will be allowed to sell firearms as essential businesses in parking lots and drive-through windows.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's just all right.
I'll have can I get 2 cases of 9mm? Can I get a Glock 45? I'm gonna need 2 of those Glock 17. Can I get 19 slides of that? Well, we have the 19X. Oh, cool. I'll get the combo then. Can I get a pair of those 19Xs and
give me a box of 22? And yeah, let's supersize that box.
Can I supersize that? Yeah, it's sweet. All right, can we supersize that? That'll be 2,800.
Yeah,
please pull to the first window.
The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. That's not fucking scary sounding at all. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency added gun stores, shooting ranges, and weapons manufacturers to the list of essential businesses and allowed them to remain open amid the pandemic. Let's see. While millions of non-essential businesses have closed their doors under varying stay-at-home orders across the country, federally licensed firearm businesses will be allowed to sell gun products through drive-up windows and temporary booths in their parking lot.
Dude, this is the world I had hoped for.
All we need now is a liquor store and a tobacco store, and we got what the ATF should be.
We already have alcohol drive-through, and you can get cigarettes at the same time. So we just need to combine them, and ATF suddenly stands for what it always should have been, a convenience store.
Yes. On Friday, ATF offered further guidance on gun retailer operations after receiving inquiries from industry members about the legality of conducting transactions outside their brick-and-mortar stores. According to the April 10 memo, the ATF said federally licensed firearms businesses would be allowed to carry out various transactions in certain settings, including drive-up or walk-up window, a temporary stand in the parking lot on the business's property, or a nearby space not on the business's property. The inquiries about the legality of selling guns outside came after a surge in gun and ammunition sales from panicked Americans worried about the safety in the midst of the coronavirus crisis. Some feared being robbed in the residence in the midst of the various stay-at-home orders.
I hate that they call them panicked rather than prudent.
Yes.
Because it's not that they're panicked. Look, owning a firearm and being like, oh shit, I need a firearm. That's not that you're panicked. You're not panicked. You're not irrational. You're suddenly waking up to just how vulnerable you really are. Yeah. And taking responsibility for your own safety. That isn't panic. That's reasonable.
Unless you buy a high point, then it's just
it might be
a
little panic.
Skipping. Okay. The skyrocketing firearms sales were later confirmed by data from the FBI. The AP reported in early April that background checks required to purchase a firearm skyrocketed, with 3.7 million background checks completed in March, the highest number done in a single month since 1998.
Absolutely shattered.
Yeah.
The previous record absolutely shattered it, which is, I mean, that's so beautiful. It brings a tear to my eye.
3.7 million background checks.
And then you have to figure that some of those, or a lot of those, are probably multiple gun purchases. A lot of those are probably multiple,
yes.
And
that's more than the size of the military, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we legal gun owners outnumber the. I mean, just legal gun owners. I'm even ignoring the huge number of illegal gun owners.
80% lowers.
Right. Yeah. That we outnumber the American military, the entire American military, by an overwhelming majority, and it's. Now, granted, they have force multiplication that we don't, but we can get it because we outnumber them.
There's a lot of memes floating around about how to acquire various things. All right. Previously, on March 28th, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, under the Department of Homeland Security, added gun stores, shooting ranges, and weapons manufacturers to its list of essential businesses, joining hospitals, pharmacies, and grocery stores allowed to stay open amid the pandemic. God, that's beautiful. All right,
Not that those pharmacies actually have anything. I tried to buy a thermometer the other day because I realized that somehow we don't have ours anymore. People are hoarding those.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
People are hoarding them and then reselling them on eBay and stuff, trying to.
I feel like it's like these Karens need to have one for each kid with a made up gluten allergy.
Yeah. All right. The decision to allow gun specialty stores to remain open in the midst of the U.S. outbreak drew both praise and ire, sparking heated debates whether guns were essential in the midst of a national health crisis.
Well, apparently they were essential enough for the goddamn founding fathers to make sure there was a specific amendment addressing them, motherfuckers.
CISA said its list is not a national mandate, but should be used as a guidance for local and state governments when making their own essential businesses list. The agency's website says also that the list can be used as an advisory while local governments, quote, work to protect their communities while ensuring continuity of functions critical to public health and safety, as well as economic and national security during the pandemic.
I just want to point that out, how important that is. Like, I want to really emphasize that point, that they specifically admitted that private ownership of firearms was essential for public security.
Yep.
Especially when you look at it, how many different police departments, sheriff's departments, even state-run prisons, looking at you, Minnesota, are releasing convicts.
New York released a guy that is a convicted serial rapist of little boys.
Well, we don't want him to get sick. What? Are you fucking kidding me right now? Are you kidding? Like, no, I do want him to die.
They're throwing people in a cage overnight for going for a drive in their own vehicles.
And yet they're releasing.
Yeah. But they're releasing child rapists.
But don't worry, it's all for your own protection. The state is only here to help you. You are being protected. Please don't attempt to resist.
Big Brother is good. Big Brother is wise.
Please win the victory over yourself. Please love Big Brother. 2 + 2 is 5. It's just, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
What is it? War is peace, freedom is slavery.
War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength.
Forgive me, I had to get up for a second. My daughter brought me her Easter basket to share.
Around me.
Chocolates are always helpful.
Yeah, around me, the Easter baskets don't get willingly shared. The Easter bunny has to tax.
My mom always called that a parent tax.
Yep. That's that just happens. What are these, turtles? Oh, that's
my daughter lives the voluntariest lifestyle, though.
Yeah.
She voluntarily gives her stuff to her elders.
I didn't have M&Ms or Reese's peanut butter cups until I turned like 12 and bought my own, because my mom stole my M&Ms and my dad took my peanut butter cups. So I grew up on the bite-sized Snickers and Whoppers.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's rough. There's a story that my family always laughs about, and I still tease my grandma about, because my grandma's like almost 100 years old. She's very, very old. Very old Irish woman. But there's this story that my family always laughs about, where my aunts and uncles, because my mom is the youngest of 7, and Irish Catholic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll allow it.
they like opened up the garbage to throw something away and realized there's this empty box of the really nice Russell Stover turtles in it. And it was just this empty box in the garbage. And they were like, I didn't get any turtles. Did you get any turtles? And they no one had gotten any. And they confronted my grandma, and she admitted that she had bought it with the idea that, oh, they're going to be a treat for the kids when they do something really good. And she just kept, well, I'll just steal one. I'll just steal one. And then they're all gone. And the kids got not a single one of them.
Hey, that sounds about right. Oh. All right, let's go to another one. We got Clear Creek County. This is Colorado. This is just west of Denver. Clear Creek County bans outside traffic on county roads. County roads in Clear Creek County. I'm going to mess that up so many times. County roads in Clear Creek County are being limited to area residents only as part of a local public health order taking effect this weekend. The order issued.
Locals, they have you say the name of the county.
Real quick, I just want to point out that they're one letter away from being, CCCP. I just want to throw that out.
Well, I'm Contra Costa County, so I'm CCC also.
Well, it's California, so
yeah, right. You're already got the P intrinsically.
The order issued Thursday by the Clear Creek County Board of Health. So this is by the Board of Health, not politicians. By the Board of Health restricts access to county roads for non-county residents, according to county officials. Despite a statewide stay-at-home order, backcountry ski and snowboard destinations in the mountains included in Clear Creek County have been filling up with people driving long distances and defying the order, which directs Coloradoans to stay at home. The east side of Loveland Pass, as well as other mountain locations, have been filling up with recreational users. Recreational gatherings pose a threat to county residents and emergency responders and public safety officials, according to the county health order, while also diminishing the county's capacity to serve its own residents. Quote, if our first responders need to assist or rescue anyone, resident or non-resident, who end up showing COVID-19 symptoms, 10 or more of our responders are out of service for at least 2 weeks to isolate. This would be devastating to the crew and the medical response capabilities. Yeah, quote, to slow the spread of COVID-19 in Clear Creek County, this order limits travel access on county roads to non-county residents for purposes outside necessary travel as defined by the state stay-at-home order.
I am seeing a disturbing and upsetting trend among people with I think there is a disease spreading in the world with this COVID-19 thing. From what I'm seeing here, I don't think it's the disease.
It's not a virus. It's not a virus.
I don't think it's a disease that they think it is, but I'm definitely seeing a significant spread of a disease here.
Yeah. This is. You guys are both going to say the line at the same time. I know it. Okay. The use of roadblocks, traffic control devices, signs, and other measures will be part of the restriction. A valid driver's license showing proof of residency will be used for access into established compliance. Exactly. Papers, please.
You not have papier? Okay. Gestapo.
Yeah. We must make sure that you are authorized by the Führer to travel through this area.
People failing to comply face a fine up to $5,000 and up to an 18-month jail sentence.
Just put them in a fucking boxcar at that point.
A year and a half in jail.
18 months and up to a $5,000 fine.
So if this sounds like a really good place for jury nullification to take effect.
Yeah, sounds like a really good place for some guys to hang out that know how to take care of things.
Yes, I don't know what you're talking about. Brandenburg says we shouldn't talk about these
hypothetically.
You guys ever see that? You guys ever see the movie Red Dawn with Wolverines?
Yeah. Well, it's actually, I was gonna wear that patch tonight. I decided on the save win.
Yeah, we didn't do a patch check. We didn't do a patch check. What do you got? Okay, you got the Wolverines right there, and then
I went with the just because I've used this so many
Kristofer
times.
has the send bachelors and come heavily armed. I like that one.
Yeah.
And then Andrew's wearing.
I'm wearing the
say win. Shaped like Montana. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did kind of notice that a little bit. Yeah, it's
I've with the reports from the WHO saying we're gonna have to go into people's houses and check them out.
Oh. Well, we're all just tickled to hear you say that.
Right?
I got the 8-bit AK. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this, and then on my mic cover, I got the dumpster fire.
Yeah, sadly, I have a pair of Begaloo.
I think is a very appropriate.
Oh yeah. I have a couple of Begaloo patches on their way, unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 thing and the prioritization to ship. The Begaloo 2020. Yeah, I have a couple of Begaloo patches on their way. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 outbreak and the prioritization by the companies who make the patches that I ordered, they're prioritizing. They've moved over to using their PVC manufacturing skills and things to make masks.
Sweet.
So they're like, hey, sorry, it's a 2 to 3 week lead time. For all of our patches and stuff, which I totally am okay with at this point. If you want to transfer to that, dude, totally good with that. I get it. I completely understand. I'll deal with that. It sucks for me, but I'll take it. Like, you know.
Speaking of which, Andrew, talking about companies shifting their production, did you hear about the 2 local manufacturers that developed their own face mask? The PVC face masks? And
yes, I actually know one of the general managers of one of them who has detailed that whole process to me. Yeah, there are 2
in Galesville?
I don't know if it's Gale. I don't think I've ever asked where it actually is. He is one of the managers there, and he actually told me how they moved over to completely different from what they normally manufacture. They are now exclusively manufacturing their own design of face shield mask combo. And they're donating $400,000 worth of them to local hospitals, including Gunderson Lutheran here in La Crosse, who's leading the way on COVID-19 research globally. They're actually and they're right over there from me. They're probably a 5-minute drive away. They actually are the first ones to fully sequence the virus's DNA genome and things to help with research there and stuff. And they're donating $400,000 to Mayo and to Gunderson Lutheran, and then they are also going to start making them for the civilian market, like the regular people market, to sell. 1, to try and recoup some of those losses, but 2, because they want to make sure that somebody's putting those out into the market, that somebody is making sure that people can get access. Because right now, no one can.
The original one was the company in Sparta is called Spartek, and they're the ones making the actual face shields. The company in Galesville is making the headgear for it.
Okay.
So what they're doing is the original design is just a one-time use. You use the face shield, then you throw the damn thing away or recycle it, as the case may be. with the I guess you'd call it mod 2 of what they're working on, is the headpiece is completely able to be sterilized, and then you just rip off the face shield and snap a new one on and go about your day.
Yeah, it's Spartak that he's the GM for.
Okay.
All right. Let's this one's gonna make people angry.
Yay! I love being angry. Actually,
No,
that's
like
my
it's-
secret. I'm
was gonna
always
say-
angry.
That's our default state. Come on.
Yeah, that's.
Oh. All right. Supreme Court gives cops free rein to stop cars. Only Sotomayor dissents. In a scathing dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor blasted the U.S. Supreme Court for giving police officers free rein to stop a vehicle involved in no suspicious activity, based merely on a guess or hunch about the driver's identity.
Oh boy, that totally lines up with the spirit of the idea of probable fucking cause.
Even probable cause is literally like the lowest legal denominator.
Yeah, and this is even
Not
worse
anymore.
than that.
Yeah. The court's decision on Monday in Kansas versus Glover, which upheld stopping a car because of the owner having a revoked license, not only, quote, impermissibly and unnecessarily reduces the state's burden of proof, Sotomayor warned, it also destroys Fourth Amendment jurisprudence that requires individual suspicion.
Yeah, because
Okay,
how do
so-
you know they were the ones who were driving?
Yeah, back in 2016, Douglas County Deputy Mark Muir saw a 95 Chevy pickup pass by and promptly ran a driver's plate check. Mayor learned that the owner of the vehicle was one Charles Glover Jr., who had his driver's license revoked, though his records don't reveal why. Although Muir couldn't identify the driver and didn't see any traffic violations, he assumed that Glover was driving. On that basis alone, the deputy decided to stop and pull over the vehicle. He was right and charged Glover with driving as a habitual violator. Glover moved to suppress the evidence, arguing that the stop was unreasonable and violated the Fourth Amendment. The Kansas Supreme Court agreed, declaring in July 18 that Mayor had quote only a hunch and had quote no information to support the assumption that the owner was the driver. But on appeal, the U.S. Supreme Court overruled that ruling in a 8-1 decision. In Kansas versus Glover, the High Court held that it was, quote, reasonable for law enforcement to stop a car when the owner has a revoked driver's license based on little more than the assumption that the owner was driving.
And think about how dangerous this jurisprudence is. What this is establishing. This is establishing a law of the land de facto, because the Supreme Court, that all a cop needs in order to stop you, whether you're driving, you know it's going to get applied to people walking, people just out. All they need is a hunch that you are doing something wrong, and it justifies their stop.
Yeah.
So doesn't this pretty much overturn Terry?
Yeah.
Terry v. Ohio?
Yeah. Under Supreme Court precedent, police only need, quote, reasonable suspicion to stop someone, which is, quote, less demanding standard than probable cause, which is required for warrants. So all they need now is reasonable suspicion. So stops like Glover's are permissible, Justice Clarence Thomas wrote for the majority, quote, when the officer lacks information negating an interference that the owner, Clarence Thomas wrote that the majority, quote, when the officer lacks information negating the inference that the owner is the driver of the vehicle. So because they couldn't say that the guy was not driving the vehicle, they had reasonable suspicion to pull the vehicle over.
Yeah, and so to circle back to what Chris just said.
Guilty until proven innocent.
Right, and to circle back to what Chris just said, what he was referencing was a case from, when the hell was Terry v. Ohio even from? I don't remember, but
I don't even remember.
in any case, basically what the Supreme Court said was, the long and short of it is, this guy, this cop, plainclothes cop, sees these dudes essentially casing a joint to rob it. and what he assumes
1968.
So he sees these guys like basically casing a joint essentially to rob it, probably according to his idea, like their behavior, the things that they're doing and things. So he stops them, and over the course of the investigation, he winds up frisking them. He finds multiple illegal weapons on them, and it's over whether or not those weapons are permissible or poison tree, because it's whether or not the stop is okay. And the court narrows their ruling to say, well, he had more than a hunch. If it had just been a hunch, it would not have been okay. But he had more than a hunch. He observed multiple behaviors that clearly indicated to even a reasonable person that this is the illegal activity these men were engaged in.
Terry v. Ohio, June 10, 1968, Supreme Court issued an 8-1 decision against Terry that upheld the constitutionality of the stop and frisk procedure as long as the police officer performing it has a, quote, reasonable suspicion that the targeted person is about to commit a crime, has committed a crime, or is committing a crime.
Right, and it basically set out, if you read the whole, and it's a long thing that we won't go into, but if you actually read what the court says, basically they establish a litmus test for this, and it involves, like, if you talk to a reasonable person, would that person just go, well, yeah, that sounds awful hinky. I can totally understand where you would make that, you would reasonably assume, because I would too. That's the established thing. What this new case does is set fire to that litmus test and go, no, you don't even need to go, well, would a reasonable person assume? This is just, oh, no. All you need is a hunch that this is probably the case without any real evidence at all. And that's good enough. So again, it shifts this further and further from innocent until proven guilty to guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, I can even say from my own personal experience that this happens here in Wisconsin. So because I fly for work, I had to go through and get the stupid real ID thing that I think it's stupid, but hey, it is what it is. That's the world we live in, which sucks balls.
I still don't have one.
Yeah, fuck off. But I went to the DMV to get my license renewed, and when I got there, I thought I'd grabbed the right paperwork, and I didn't. I thought I'd grabbed my birth certificate, and I actually grabbed my marriage license from my first marriage. Not even my current one, from my first marriage. And I got there, I'm like, oh shit, I don't have the right paperwork. So they gave me a little paper card that I had to carry around. They gave me a 60-day extension on my license. I'm sitting in front of the middle school picking up my daughter. Cop drives by, runs my plates, goes around the block, then initiates a traffic stop to see if I have that little card on me.
Oh, God.
Even though it's in the computer that says, oh, he has an extension. But because he stopped me to make sure that I had my card. Because if I didn't, then he was going to probably arrest me for driving while revoked or some shit.
So but back to this quote. It's like from Justice Clarence Thomas wrote for the majority, quote, when the officer lacks information negating an inference that the owner is the driver of the vehicle.
Negating an so again,
when the officer lacks information negating an inference. So as long as you don't have information negating your assumptions.
This is absolutely
it's
guilty until proven innocent. This is like indisputably saying you are guilty until proven innocent. Because at this point, there's no evidence to prove that you're wrong in your assumption, your arbitrary assumption, because there's no evidence to say, well, no, you're wrong. Now, magically, you're just automatically guilty, and he's allowed to pull you over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how does anyone at this point pretend that we're not a police state? Like, I honestly have to ask, how do you even pretend that we're not? How do
Mental
you
jumping
convince yourself?
jacks is the
That's what it
only
is.
way.
Sotomayor declared in her dissent, quote, "This has its backwards," and wrongly, quote, "flips the burden of proof."
Exactly.
Decisions to pull over cars should be based on the presence, not absence of evidence. As a result, quote, "The majority's approach is that to absolve officers from any responsibility to investigate the identity of a driver where feasible. The exact opposite of what officers ought to do and are more than capable of doing."
Boy, but I tell you what, Republicans, thank God all of those Republican-appointed judges are currently on the Supreme Court right now, huh?
Right?
That's
They're working
working
out
out well.
marvelously.
Yeah. Hey, yay freedom. Go team. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the thing is I don't know that if you had, and there are a lot of things that would probably, that I would object to with even a leftist, largely Supreme Court. But the fact that so many conservative appointees are on the Supreme Court, and conservatives are historically so police state worshipy.
Yeah.
This, that's what this is this is that coming home to roost, where no, the police can just decide that you must be violating the law because they just assume that you are.
Yep.
And therefore they can pull you over. And the thing is there are plenty of conservatives who will try and justify this and go, but he was violating the law. Okay, but the cop didn't know that. They don't make
the law; they just enforce it.
Well, but they'll say, but he, they'll be like, but he was violating the law. Okay, but he didn't know that.
Yeah, you can't prove
right?
it. Right?
He didn't know that. He didn't know for sure. And the thing is then they'll go, okay, well, but it's just traffic stops. All right, but even if I give you traffic stops, and I don't want to, but even if I were to, well, what makes you so sure?
Exactly. No. Let's make a huge generalization here. A lot of Republicans, a lot of FUDs, a lot of gun owners, a lot of conservatives, they support stop and frisk because it happens in New York City. If stop and frisk was the policy in Bozeman, Montana, they would be losing their fucking minds.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
if that happened in Podunk, Iowa.
Mm-hmm. If that was the policy in Dallas, Texas.
Oh yeah, they'd lose their damn. Well, no, see, even Dallas, they'd still be okay with it because they'd argue,
Austin,
they might be illegal.
Austin. If it happened in Austin, they'd be okay with it.
Well, yeah. Okay.
I would make a case for Dallas too.
If it happened in Houston, they'd be okay with it.
San Antonio, they'd definitely be okay with it.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that's most of.
It happened in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get a ways. You got to get out of Texas before you get people who are actually still going to object to it. Really, that are on the political right. But if that happened in Iowa or that happened in Missouri or that happened in I mean,
well, it depends
I'm running out of. Yeah.
You saw what they did with when Ferguson was happening.
Yeah, St. Louis isn't, that doesn't count. Fuck St. Louis. But there are tons of big cities on the Mississippi that really don't represent the rest of the state. Now, I am in a big city on the Mississippi, and I just want to point out we are shifting really far left, and it's pissing me off. But I'm seeing it, like it's spreading like a virus up the water.
Californian.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate. I live in the heart of the state right now, so I get away from all that big city stupid.
Yeah, it's see, we got to deal with a lot of that here, but it's like a virus that's just crawling from both ends because you got Minneapolis, St. Paul up north, and then you got St. Louis to the south and like the Quad Cities, and it's just crawling towards us and starting to infect us. It's terrible.
Like a virus.
Yeah, like a horrendous virus. But I mean, if that happened in one of those places, it is a largely conservative held location, and it was conservatives getting stopped at random, you know they would object to it, especially because we've seen that, because they've done that. They've objected when people are open carrying and get stopped just for the fact that they're open carrying, even though the Supreme Court has said multiple times that the simple presence of a firearm does not constitute probable cause that a crime is being committed.
Yep. So, all right. Back to the article. Unfortunately, thanks to the court's decision in Kansas versus Glover, millions of drivers will now have fewer constitutional protections under the Fourth Amendment. As a joint amicus warned, quote, permitting police officers to conduct suspicious lists, seizures of vehicles registered to owners with suspended licenses without knowing who is actually driving will invade the Fourth Amendment rights of millions of Americans with little to no corresponding benefit to public safety.
You know, and it's funny because Sotomayor has said a lot of things I don't like. A lot of things.
She's absolutely right on this one.
But she is dead on here. Dead on.
Her quote about was it flipping the responsibility or something like that?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Exactly what it does.
But see, and that's the other thing too, is that if you pay attention to the way a lot of people seem to view the law enforcement and the way law enforcement works and the way the law works, there are so many people in America who still believe in government who honestly do adhere to the guilty until proven innocent idea. They really do. Because you'll notice, look at the venom that gets spit when people talk about defense attorneys. I mean, just think about it for a minute. Like, look at how many TV shows, how many procedural cop shows are out there where all the time the defense attorneys are portrayed as the bad guys, as protecting bad guys. All the time. Right? You never see a defense attorney who's actually protecting their client and it's proven justified and blah, blah, blah. You always see them as bad guys. I don't think that's unintentional.
All right. Let's get this last one out of the way, and then we're getting close on time. So it's not all bad news. The coronavirus thing and COVID-19, the shutdowns, it's not always a bad thing. So this is out of Las Vegas. Citing the economic impact of COVID-19 outbreak, Metro Police has eliminated 112 part-time positions. Woohoo! All the layoffs impacted will be part-time employees. All employees impacted by the layoffs will be compensated through April 17th. Okay, in a statement, the officials say coronavirus mitigation efforts will result in a, quote, sharp decline in revenue to state and local government, which in turn will force many difficult decisions in the upcoming months.
I'm playing the world's tiniest violin right now. You can't see it if you're listening to the audio version.
I'm just devastated.
I am beside myself, upset that the state is losing revenue by extorting people. I'm so heartbroken.
112 part-time positions, 103 of which were filled.
So what they're saying is that there were over 100 non-essential
There were 112 non-essential positions.
You know,
that shouldn't have existed in the first place.
And even the last time not the last time government shut down, because that was one thing, but the time before that, the last time that government shut down. Do you remember even all of those conservative pages posting, like, why are there thousands of non-essential government employees? Like, why do they even exist? And this is the same question I pose to you now, conservatives, thin blue liners. Why are there over 100 non-essential government employees?
112 at
just
one police
with
station.
the Metro Police.
And that's just Las Vegas. That is one department. One. And we're not even talking, and that's the Las Vegas PD, right? That's LVPD. That is
Las
not
Vegas Metro.
Yeah, that isn't the outlying suburbs. We're not talking about Henderson. We're not talking about Boulder. We're not talking about the areas on the outside. and how many they probably have, especially Henderson, let's be honest, because they have their own police department. I'm sure there's probably 50, 60, 70. So we're talking one police. Think about, multiply that across how many police departments are in the United States.
Oh.
How many non-essential employees do you think there are out there that are working on taxpayer dollars doing a job that they don't actually need them to do?
And that's just police departments. Think about your city, your state, your county governments, and how
I would
many.
argue literally all of them are non-essential.
Well, yeah, I would make that argument myself. But even talking directly to statists on their level, think about it from that perspective. If you're talking about 112 people working for the city of Las Vegas, how many people in across every city, county, little podunk town that has a one car patrol, how many people are they hiring that are non-essential?
Oh yeah,
just because they can.
Oh yeah, I mean, think about that. Imagine if you actually did that.
Holy crap!
Audit.
The Las Vegas Metro Police Department employs 5,819 people. They have an annual budget of $856 million.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not surprised in the least.
That doesn't surprise me. Reno, which is significantly smaller than Las Vegas, I was involved in the training of their SWAT team years and years ago. I was a statist once. Don't judge me. You were a statist once too.
They also have 7 horses in their employ. It's what it says on the Wikipedia.
Oh,
in the desert.
Okay, then. All right.
7 horses in the desert.
Just in case they need to get that posse together for them outlaws. But I even Reno, right, which is way dramatically smaller than Las Vegas,
biggest little city in the world.
Yeah, even Reno, I helped do training for their SWAT team years ago, and they have a SWAT team. They have a fully armed, fully functional SWAT team in Reno. So you can imagine what Las Vegas looks like.
Oh, I'm sure they got a full-on anti-terrorism task force and everything.
Oh yeah,
each precinct probably has a full complement of SWAT officers.
Yeah, there was
Bearcats and Raps, all that good stuff. So.
Yeah, there was 12 even back then, and this is freaking almost 10 years ago now. That Reno had an MRAP. Mm-hmm. And this weird little kind of like tanky thing with like tracks, and it was this really small like armored vehicle with like a battering ram up front. They even had one of those. They had 12 people.
Like a half track or like a full track?
No, like full track. It was like 2 full tracks, and it's like pointing to it. Almost looked like, think Little Willie, if you're familiar with the world's first tank. Think Little Willie, but at a smaller size and longer tracks. Mm-hmm. It was really weird. I don't know who made it or anything, but they had one. It had like this huge solid steel battering ram up front. It was really, I mean, it was interesting at the time. Like, it was like, what the hell is that? But they even had that, and it had like clamshell doors on the rear. Basically, so you could, as far as I could tell, ram it through someone's house, and then once you were in the house, open the doors and spill out your SWAT team. That was kind of what it was designed for. But I mean, that's a much smaller police department. So think about the kind of arms and personnel and training and all these things that go into something for a police department that's probably 4 or 5 times the size for Las Vegas. And then consider that Henderson takes a lot of that from Vegas. And so Henderson's got a lot. And Boulder probably has 4 cops. I mean, let's be honest, it's Boulder. If you've ever been there, if you've ever traveled that far north from Vegas to hit Boulder, you know what I'm talking about. There's not a lot there. But they all have these people, and this is all non-essential employees that they're letting go. So for every one, you can probably guess there's probably at least one non-essential employee that they don't even need on a day-to-day basis to actually do their jobs.
I mean, let's be real. They're police, so they are non-essential.
Oh, they're all non-essential.
They're all
Like I said.
non-essential.
But I mean, even if you believe that the police need to exist, I mean, you're talking about half, probably, that they don't actually need to do their jobs. They just were like, oh, well, I have this budget, so I might as well spend it.
And how do they get that budget? By having people on the roads pulling people over.
Yeah, and seizing vehicles for people, from people who are never even actually charged with a crime.
Civil asset forfeiture. Stole, the DEA alone stole more goods and money from people in 2017, 2018, something like that, than burglars that year. So I mean,
I'm shocked.
That's one agency. So
don't worry.
That's legal burglary.
Yeah, don't worry.
It's for your protection.
It's totally not organized crime. It's just totally not. Don't worry.
They're not a gang.
Yeah.
Just saying. So, all right. We're at 2 hours. We went over. Sorry if you're still listening. I'm going to keep talking and dragging it on just because I'm bored. Please don't make me go back to quarantine.
Don't make me go. Don't make me go back. You can't make me go back.
Right now, don't judge him.
All right, this is Anarchy, or Anarchy Among Friends, right? Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion.
Yes.
Episode.
Most professional podcast.
Where are we? Who are we?
We are all.
What year is this?
Yeah, the quarantine is not doing you any favors, man.
Dude.
When was the last time I showered? I don't even remember.
I'll tell that story off air. This has been episode 90. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Yeah, make sure you check out Ink Anarchist, Danny Roundup.
Let's do that. The link will be in the description below. Also check out Bahalarchist on Instagram. Aren't you on Twitter also?
No,
he's Instagram.
Get on that cesspool.
Yeah, he's also an admin on Inked Anarchist, Hoot Nanny Roundup. I obviously am the Inked Anarchist, so
what
my page mainly, but Chris is one of the admins, and we're up to, last I checked, we're over 560 for our likes. So in just over a month.
Oh,
yeah,
it's hard. It's hard to build a page under the yeah, I can't think. All right, we'll catch you next time.
Later.